In this series of videos, we're building a beginner's model railroad on IKEA Tables using pre-cut plywood and pillars available as a kit, track system of your choice. The result is a model railroad with 2 stations, a harbor with connection to a ferry boat. This switching yard handles the freight cars coming from the 2 industries on the layout.
Hello and welcome to the second episode in this series where we're building a model railroad from ground up. It's a type of beginner's layout, so it has this classic footprint of 2.5 by 1.5 meter, which is almost like a plywood sheet. So that's what's happening here. In the previous episode, I covered a bit on the design goals I had with this Martinstown, as well as some of the options you can add whilst building it, shadow stations, etc. In this episode we will get on with the actual build of the model railroad. We're starting at the nearest IKEA warehouse where we're purchasing tables for this layout.
Well, IKEA has stores in 24 different countries spread over the entire world. So no matter what continent you're on, there should be an IKEA store. And the good thing with IKEA, these tabletops were just €7.50, which corresponds to about $9 each. And these modular tables, you buy the tabletop separately and the table legs. The table are called Linnmon. The table legs are called ADILS and have adjustable ends like this, so you can make fine tuning according to the floor you have. And all you need to do is to screw the table leg holders, the fastening plates, to the tabletops, then screw the table leg like this. This way you don't have to use any power tools at all. You don't need any sawdust and make complicated framework, not even buying plywood. It's really simple and robust. Now what we need to do is to join these tables together. For this I'm using these steel plate joiners, and they are available on any DIY shop. Now these tabletops are hollow from IKEA, so there's no need to screw them further into the table than on the edge like this, meaning you will not benefit of using wider joiners. I screw all my joiners onto the center table and then I screw the others from underneath, so I get all of the tables assembled together. I like to assemble a backdrop to the rear wall. This gives me a bit of a guideline for both color, heights in the landscape and what it all should look like. With the backdrop in place, we can start with the Sub-roadbed. It contains from plywood pieces and pillars. These are plastic pillars which I've acquired from a German company called Knock. They are using these pillars in their EasyTrack system, and I was thinking it was a good idea. The plywood is pre-cut. I made CAD images of them and got them all cut out. The pillar system consists from pillars in different heights, or I would say pillar segments. There are 2 bottom segments. This one is 4mm tall, and you just push them together and they sit very, very firmly. And then you end with a fixing plate for the plywood like this. Hopefully I will be able to provide these plywood pieces and the pillar as a kit to you later. What I do, I typically use paper tape, masking tape or carpenter's tape to join the pieces together. Thereby it's easy to move the segments around and position them, exactly on the table where you want them. Alright, so now I've completed one of the loops in the dog bone. Now let's get over to the other loop. I'm building those 2 separates and my intention is to join them at the station in the end. Thereby I'm assembling the lower parts before starting on those which will lie on top. Here is the track going to the distillery. And this is now the plates for the harbor station or harbor siding. So I also completed the South Town loop plus the harbor siding. Now, once this is completed, I thought it was a good idea to unpack some of the tracks I've selected for this layout, just to make sure that I've got the geometry right and not made any mistakes. I'm starting with the curved pieces to build the 2 loops for each of those terminal stations, which is South Town and North Town. So I'm starting to click these together. It's rather easy just to assemble them like this. Depending on what track system you've selected, there for both Trix and Märklin you need a small piece, curved piece here, just before the turnout, just so you don't miss that one. We need to open the other box of curved tracks to build the other loop. And then we extend this with the straight sections as well, and we have also completed the second loop. So this is what it looks like. I will not assemble more tracks. This gives me the confirmation I was looking for. What I do is I remove these track sections. I don't disassemble them totally. I leave them like this, and I remove them and move them to another table. They will be assembled quite soon anyway. So now I'm building the sub-roadbed, the plywood pieces for the main station. And now we're gonna join the north and the south loops together. You see that there is a bit of a mismatch here, so it's really a good thing that we taped all of the plywood pieces together, because then it's very, very easy to position them exactly where they should be on the table. So after this we should get that join exactly where we want it, like this. So this is the spacing you will see also to the table edges once you have laid out all of the plywood pieces in the correct position. So now I'm also adding the sidings for the industries. This is the siding for the distillery. Take note that should be a small piece in the middle of the yard lead from the distillery to make that angle correct. I'm also assembling the main yard substructure now, and then once all plywood is in place, I'm using a pencil to mark the outline of the plywood onto the table, plus every joint in between the plywood pieces. The reason for that is that in each joint there will be a pillar. So I'm also writing the pillar height here, or the pillar number. You can choose that, whatever you like. Please also take note that there are 2 different bottom pieces. One I've numbered number 1 here is only 1 millimeter tall, whilst number 2, 4104, is 4 millimeter. So in order to make sure not to assemble them in the wrong position, I write where I should have pillar base number 2. So I write that with that red marker onto the table. Again, I'm not disassembling this totally. I remove them from the table in segments when I start screwing the bottom segments for all the pillars, which has this 4 millimeter bottom segment like this. With that done, you can start assembling the pillars according to the instruction, and then also assemble that Vippe, which is the top part which will be glued to the plywood. Once all of the 4mm base parts have been assembled, I start to assemble the 4101 in the remaining positions. And then this is what it looks like. And after that you can also assemble the pillars, which goes onto those base parts like this. Once all pillar pieces are in place, we can start to assemble the plywood pieces onto these pillars. For that I'm using latex rubber. It's a compound which is commonly used in construction work when you want to join two pieces of walls or tiles which are expected to move a bit compared to each other. So then you have this latex rubber. You find this as well in your DIY store. So it's also very low cost. This tube, which was half a liter, was only €4 or $5. So I'm applying that kind of richly on top of those pillars, and then I just put the plywood on top like that. The good thing with this latex rubber is that it doesn't cure instantly. You have at least 10 minutes to work with everything and tweak the position. Once you feel happy, you just put some weight which keeps them in position. I use paint cans here, as you see. Now let's leave this to dry.
Alright, so now the sub-roadbed and everything is ready to start laying tracks. In the next episode we will get started on the tracks. So we will lay track, we will fix them to the sub-roadbed, to the plywood that is, and we will put some ballast to make them blend into the environment, and also we will weather the track. So that's happening in the next video in this series. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe and enable that little bell so you get a notification once next video gets published. Did you know this channel is totally dependent on the support from the viewers? So a few of you are kind enough to support the channel on monthly basis. So if you want to be one of the good guys, get over to Patreon, set up a support account there from $1 per month, or make a one-off donation using the PayPal link found in the video description below. Again, a big thank you for watching this video. Take care and see you in the next one.